Namaskar and very warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of Sanjog, thank you. I am very grateful that so many of you have responded with such enthusiasm, and the energy in this room since morning has been very palpable. This room is a room of resources that we are all sitting in. This room at present has individuals and organizations that have come together committedly to fight the fight against human trafficking and exploitation. How do we scale out? How do we scale up? And how do we scale deep? In sameness, we connect. In differences, we grow. So let's bring our sameness, our resonances and our differences to the fore so that we walk out a stronger collective tomorrow.
Okay, so as you know, the name of the research was AHTU Watch. The naming of the research was also interesting for us because Anti Human Trafficking Unit, when it was established, it was formed for the core purpose of watching the entire trafficking, issue of trafficking as an organized crime. So the study is about a study which wanted to study the status of anti-human trafficking in India across from 2010 to 2021. We wanted to know that after all the notifications and the directives that AHTU, the MHA had given, what is happening across India with regard to AHTU. So the method that we had applied to do this was, one was RTI. We filed RTI in almost 34 states, and then we did a stakeholder consultation where we met NGOs, where we met the survivors of trafficking to understand from them what is their status and learnings about AHTU. In terms of the fund allocation, till 2019 we saw that 5,18,76,000 was allocated in 8 states. So these 8 states were mostly those who have responded: Delhi, Ladakh, Mizoram. I mean, not all states that we have mentioned have responded to this data. So only 8 states, when we had added them together, this was the fund allocation in the last, say, 6 to 7 years. The fundings are happening. What is the nature of utilization of funding? Where have they invested the funding to? So we found till 2019, it was mostly spent on infrastructure, such as vehicle. They needed car, they needed offices, but very few investment on intelligence gathering. How can they, contact cases? How will they use technology to contact cases? What kind of researches the AHTU themselves needed? Those data were missing. Most AHTU officials were on additional duty. That was not their core responsibility. They were already a police officer in a police station, and this was an additional duty for which they were not made responsible or accountable as an AHTU officers. However, in the last 3 years data, what we found that the range of additional duty has reduced. So people who are as of now AHTU officers, they are full-time officers.
AHTU officers need recognition and validation from the system or encouragement towards working within the AHTU. An AHTU official directly saying, "हम तो बहुत छोटे आदमी हैं." So that gave them representation of, they don't feel very much empowered on their work duties. As we have also found, there are various numbers of additional duties there. AHTU officials felt that being an AHTU officer is some kind of a punishment posting.
One thing is that the NGOs who are working with the AHTUs, they play a far more cooperative role. No, I won't say even collaborative role, because when collaboration happens, then there needs to be responsibilities of all parties. What is happening is AHTUs rescues are only happening where NGOs are being, they are giving the intelligence that so and so person needs to be rescued. We will provide you with the car. So the NGOs who have investment in terms of their financial resources, those areas are getting covered by the AHTU. where the NGOs are not pushing the AHTUs. If the AHTUs don't feel like or they don't get the information, they are not taking up those rescues. AHTUs officials who are investigating the cases with the for the survivors have said that they have been very respectful towards them. They have been very, very, I mean, what do I say? They had used a word like, जब मैं local police station जाती हूँ तो मुझे बहुत बेइज्जती फील होती है क्योंकि वो मेरे आसपास कम्युनिटी के वहाँ ही होता है. बट जब मैं AHTU ऑफिस जाती हूँ वो थोड़ा फिर भी दूर है मेरे घर से. So I don't find my local people out there. And AHTU officials, the first thing which they do to us is they make us sit, they make us relax, and then they talk to us.
This is not a systemic observation. Yeah. This is not happening across the states, in all states. So there are a couple of states where the High Court of the state has given the directive, and hence the AHTU is taking it up, not only limited to rescue, intelligence gathering, cross-state, interstate intelligence gathering, interstate investigation, and then survivor protection, witness protection, identification. That entire thing is being handled by the AHTU because of that directive. But in most states this is not happening. It gets restricted to rescue. That also the information has come from the NGO. The AHTU goes, rescues, and hands over the case to the local thana. So it's not a systemic observation. There is, and hence it's not a. That's what when it's happening, it's great. The quality of investigation is great. Most of the time, it's not happening.
Coming from Hyderabad, probably I am uniquely placed to give one example of successful AHTUs. Mahesh Bhagwat, he was commissioner of Rajkonda. We have 3 commission rates. He was commissioner of one of them. So under him there was one AHTU, and they spent enormous time and resources on it. The commission was available 24/7 for those police officers. He could be contacted any time. So the CA was telling me that they have tracked one trafficker for almost 1 year, and they chased him for 2 days physically, and finally they caught him. So he told me that the kind of focus we need to put on the traffickers is really very heavy. And Mahesh Bhagwat, he has become the CAD chief now.
You have touched a very interesting thing, because in the anti-human trafficking sector over the last 20 years, please sit down, sir. One of the things we see is within the law enforcement, there have been certain heroes. Dr. Nair being one, Mahesh Bhagwat being the second. There is one more gentleman in Andhra Pradesh, I forget. Umapati. Okay. And then wherever there is a training of some kind of police, the national level conference, one of these 3 people will go. And you see, all these 3 people have been very strongly recognized and validated by the US government. Now, one of the things that this was another research that Dr. Nair and I were doing in 2017. You're going around 6 or 7 states in India trying to understand the nature of. So one of the things you find is that there is no intel gathering by the state police. So the way the law enforcement is functioning is once the information is being brought by the NGOs, that's when the system responds.
I think one of the biggest pillars of good advocacy is the constituency education, and that over here it would mean survivors and the communities, and in the name of awareness generation बहुत हुआ है, but actually focused strategic constituency education for them to understand the legislative and financial implications, the analysis. In that language, if the constituency is to understand the analysis and what comes out of what does the law say, what does this policy say, kitna paisa ja raha hai, who's making the money, where's the money being invested, this kind of analysis and educating the constituency on this, I absolutely feel is one of the biggest arms of good advocacy.
We see in Andhra and Telangana, particularly in 2 years back, Telangana is also established AHTUs in the women police stations, but till now they are not giving the status of police station, not notified. In Andhra Pradesh, we can see 13 AHTUs 1 year back. Actually, now is 26 AHTUs already established. But only 13 only state government is announcing it. Not 13, they are waiting for the. But what happened here? In Andhra Pradesh, they are also notified as a police station AHTUs. But still now, we can ask the circle inspector of the who is in charge of AHTUs in both Telangana, Tafteesh friends and myself also there. They say they have no right for arrest. They have no right. They return FIR. But what they do, they say the local police station take the responsibility. They write the FIR, they file the court. But what do? We only go for support.
They've got an app called the Darpan app. So when the AHTU units go for rescue operations across Telangana, they click pictures of the children, they click pictures of traffickers. Automatically, it has the facial recognition app, which connects to any missing children that is being filed in UP or Rajasthan. It connects, and it also connects the FIR that has been registered in the particular state. It gives the alert message to the particular state and also to the local thana where the child is rescued. And this app has also been included by the CWC members, where right from the time the rescue happens till the rehabilitation, the date when the case comes up, what is the judgment, when the bank account is opened, all these things are mentioned in the portal also.
This is which government?
Telangana government.
In Telangana government.
Yes.
So if Telangana is using the app,
Yes.
and let's say there are cases from, let's say, Bihar going to Telangana, is Bihar using the app as well?
Bihar is not using the app.
Okay.
So what happens is, once a rescue operation happens in Telangana, the Bihar people have been conveyed the message, and the letter goes from the collector to the concerned district where the children or the girls have been rescued.
Is there any system that you have found that helps coordinate the coordination between Telangana AHTUs and Bihari AHTUs directly?
Yes. So not Bihar. I would like to quote here. There was a MOU signed between the state of Odisha and Telangana, where they developed. There was a point of contact from the Odisha AHTU being deployed in Telangana. Whenever any people comes in, they give information of emergency contact numbers of labor officials, local Thana police stations, or places where they are going in. So if they find any challenges, then they can contact these people for solutions.
You've come, across examples or successes that have transcended, successful personality-driven investigations, and in an effort to institutionalize the process of an AHTU in any of the states.
In the last 10 years, no. I mean, if there was individual who has put in all the effort, that remained with the individual. Especially about examples of Telangana and AP that we came to know about Umapati and Mahesh Bhagwan. Those were all individual centric. Till the time they were in the tenure, it happened, but it did not get institutionalized.
So one of the validations that the officers have got is, according to Ministry of Home Affairs, they do something called as Operation Smile and Operation Muskan. You might already know that. So officers, AHTU officers who've been part of rescue operations, who've been on rescue operations like day and night, they've been recognized by the end of the operation by the DGP, and also the Ministry of Home Affairs people come from there, Labour Minister comes from there, and they recognized and they're given awards. So this boosts them up. A letter from the DGP, a letter from the CM, these things boost them up. I've seen this happen in Andhra, Telangana, and yes.
Whenever there is a political will, then it translates into police taking actions. For example, in Maharashtra we had a deputy CM called R.R. Patil, who was very much forceful. He wanted this, he did a lot of work, and that's when he strengthened the anti-human trafficking cell over there, and that's where anti-human trafficking cell started working in Maharashtra. So it is also the political will. I know we talking about the central government and the state government. When there is a from the central government, this thing comes up, and there is a political will to address this issue, then it will come to a priority level.
वहाँ पे आई थिंक जितने भी एचटी की इंचार्ज है डेजिग्नेशन वाइज
तो दैट कहीं पे दिखाई नहीं दिया बिकॉज AHTU के इंचार्ज PI as per ITP Act, PI and above rank के officers is a authority to rescue, right? But अगर AHTU का हेडिंग कर रहा है PS और API, we don't have power to the rescue operation. तो in that case काफी number of cases failure हो जाते हैं prosecution के level पे.
Today, who someone is the normal police, become the member of AHTU today, and tomorrow again he'll go to the same police station. So generally, what happens when we have something to say against the police station when they are not cooperating us for the rescue of child labor and all. So AHTU is like, अरे भाई हम नहीं बोल सकते हैं, कल को हमें भी उन्हीं के साथ जाके वापस काम करना है, हम उनसे दुश्मनी नहीं ले सकते हैं. And the second, the memes shared on the dice, it is actually very fact. I still remember one day we were supposed to do the rescues of the child begging, and you won't believe, not a single police station, there was a rescue operation of 4 police areas. Not a single police station has given a single van or some assistance to go and rescue. Then finally the in charge of AHTU, who took his own personal car, and uski choti si car mein hum 5 log, we were sitting and we went for the rescue. And somehow we find some children also. But then there is no space in the car where we can, take the children to the CWC. So this is something we have to see aspect of AHTUs also. Sometimes they really wants to do work, but they are not being provided by any resources or something like this. So then the dependency come on NGO. अरे आप तो NGO, आपके पास क्या कमी है? You will call someone, you will call your staff member, you will call the resources. आपके पास तो बहुत पैसा है, आपको तो वहाँ से पैसा मिलता है, sort of. The mindset they have actually about the NGOs.
Then let's say, for example, this is an area where there are some cases. Yeah, there is a local police station, and then there is a AHTU. According to policy, all trafficking related matters, the primary responsibility is the AHTUs. But in the system still holds the local police station as being the primary accountability holder and not the AHTU. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Okay. So then the question becomes, and I'm assuming this is being triggered by the SPs, right?
Yes.
The pressure is coming from the SPs saying that what are you doing? Why is it that the AHTU is being able to do it and why aren't you being able to do it? Yeah, that is number one. The second thing is that a lot of NGOs like yourselves are operating on operational levels. So at a rescue level, you have a collaborative relationship. So there are times when at that point of time during operations, you provide services and support services because you are fairly aware of the limitations of the AHTUs.
Main issue ये है कि पुलिस चाहती नहीं है कि रेस्क्यूज हो. सबसे बड़ा मेन इशू यही है कि पुलिस चाहती नहीं है रेस्क्यूज हो. Whether it is AHTUs और local police.
Why?
Because ये इनका क्राइम को ग्राफ को बढ़ाएगा.
Sorry?
क्राइम ग्राफ को बढ़ाएगा. मतलब पर्टिकुलर इन जयपुर, पर्टिकुलर द मोस्टली जो केसेस हैं वो चाइल्ड लेबर एंड चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग के हैं. सेक्स ट्रैफिकिंग के केसेस इतने रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है, सो वी डोंट नो वो है कि नहीं है वहाँ पे. और ये जो केसेस हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस आर फ्रॉम जयपुर नॉर्थ ओनली. तो जयपुर नॉर्थ ट्रैफिकिंग और चाइल्ड लेबर के केसेस को लेकर के इवन आई थिंक 85 to 90% केसेस आर फ्रॉम जयपुर नॉर्थ. अब जयपुर नॉर्थ की लोकल पुलिस के ऊपर इतना प्रेशर रहता है कि यार बाकी जगह नहीं है, तुम्हारे केसेस इतने ज्यादा क्यों आ रहे हैं, तो उनके ऊपर काफी.
Who's asking this question?
Their authorities.
Higher at what level of authority? Is it the politician? Is it the DG? Is it what level of authority?
All. Mainly the senior police levels, DIG or IG or DGPs, and somehow वहाँ के जो MLAs वगैरह हैं वो भी कह रहे हैं यार थोड़ा तो कुछ करो, मेंटेन करो. हमारा जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी है यहाँ पे मतलब थोड़ा ज़्यादा इशू हो रहा है.
Even after 15 years since the entire system, the AHTUs got created, etc., thus the higher levels of police and the political class would rather be in denial, saying that let us not show, let us not acknowledge. If we don't acknowledge that there is a problem, we don't have to deal with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think even the police isn't clear about what is the AHTU's role. What we see often, the AHTU is now more focused on awareness generation rather than actually doing the investigation. And they do face hostility from the police because even if it's within the same state, I feel that, there is this, that we are the police, we know the local communities better, and an external
sir was saying, that an external person coming and hire, so-called body coming and investigation does reflect poorly on us.
No, but you see, the point over here is a local police feeling helpless. I don't know what the AHTU's role is. It is not their job to do.
Right.
The question is at the higher level, at the DIG, IG level, why isn't there a greater interest in even clarifying to the system what is the AHTU's role? Because it's all laid out in policy.
Absolutely.
So how come a decade and a half has passed by and where the system still feels that, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do? Sure. How do you explain that?
When the testifying is happening, most of the cases, the witnesses are not the actual witnesses that was present in the rescue. Now, when the police does a raid, they just name someone like Chaiwala or someone who is out there like as a witness who is there. And when he goes to court, he has no idea of what he has to say. And there it all falls off.
But tell me something, the same scenario was there 15 years ago. So what has changed in 15 years?
Right now, what we also see a good part is that the seniors are concerned about why convictions are not happening.
How is the concern translating into action?
So the DCP they have to report to the DCP about the cases that is in court, why convictions. There seems to be a little bit of interest being taken by.
In Maharashtra, I went to the DGP. So the first question that DGP asked me is the AHTU a part of police department? That was the first question that DGP asked. And then he asked the DIG to understand about what's the status of AHTU, gaadi kyun nahi hai, abhi fix karo. So that was the altogether mentality of the DGP.
We resonate the fact that NGOs are only facilitators. The accountability must lie with the state. Now, how do we build accountability when we are talking about solutions and strengthening of justice? We did a very minuscule study at our level that if we want to strengthen prosecution, is it only the AHTUs or the police machinery that is responsible? That is the question we've been asking ourselves for a very long time, and a lot of us as NGO community. And out of that research, same perceptions, the lack of perceptions or right perceptions, even today, when we talk about lived experiences and we engage not just with the police but even the judiciary, trafficking is still dismissed as prostitution.
Now, therefore, if I am the survivor and I keep saying that if I am the victim in this entire process, why is it that I am under incarceration whereas the accused is caught free?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, if the victim comes back home, the question then becomes that why isn't this victim necessarily going to cooperate with the police? So she comes back home and then she's here to deal with stigma, she's here to deal with poverty. There are no rehabilitation services at the community level. So the system and the entire advocacy and the studies are very localized there.
Yeah.
So everybody is looking at the elephant, somebody's looking at the tail, somebody's looking at the ears and trying to fix the problem. Nobody's looking at the whole elephant. Again, the question comes, why is it that the civil society sector have not found it possible to integrate? Because some of the actions will happen at the local operational level. There will be some problems over there. It has to be escalated at the state level. Some of it will get resolved over here, but then there is a country level narrative, and at the time of the policy engagement, we still find very individualized approaches that one of us will have to go and find some MLA or MP and convince them. Why is it that the civil society sector has not been able to create a collective impact model? Why do we think that we haven't been the joint narrative? It seems to be just as the system is responding to the problem in a very siloed fashion, it also seems that NGOs are also doing the same. So tell me something, why hasn't there been some organizations who have said, we would like to get into the space of research for advocacy? NGOs have to play different kinds of roles. We see that many NGOs over here are in the job of rescuing, of providing direct services. There seems to be a systemic gap between organizations who will just do systems analysis and data collection, finding out where the problems lie, and then take it to a policy level. Why do you think there hasn't been more NGOs who are interested in doing that kind of work? But like for example, one of you asked, has this report gone to the MHA, etc., and Nisha said that we are planning. But in my opinion, I don't think it should be a matter of one organization trying to do the whole piece. Right? Part of this entire exercise is that to see how, if somebody wants to do this thing in Jaipur or in Rajasthan or Tamil Nadu or Kerala, etc., how can we do it together rather than one organization trying to do it all by themselves? What do you think will be required? Sanjog's dream is to give whatever. We are here to make you create your own umbrellas. Sanjog does not wish to become the umbrella. We are not here to create the umbrella. Sanjog's, our agenda is, we want to help you create your own umbrella.
We have talked about the political will. We have talked about trying to influence the politicians, be it at the MP level or at the local councillor level. We have not yet talked about taking the judicial way. What we have seen in Tafteesh in the last 10 years is that there are problems, there are shortcomings of the executive. But when we slowly brought it to the constitutional court, namely the Calcutta High Court, and initially there were resistance from the judiciary also. You know, oh, these people, they go off their own kind of attitude. But when slowly one after the other we started bringing in cases before the same judge, it brought in a change. Many of you have been in this system for a very, very long time. I have been part of Tafteesh for the last 10 years. And I think that if there is one organization that we can learn from, is the network of traffickers. I'm sorry to say that the traffickers are more organized than us. We need to be as organized to fight trafficking. Otherwise, we will continue our lifetime doing the same thing over and over again without any effective change. I remember Einstein saying that if we do the same thing and we expect different results, that's the stupidest thing that we can do.
Very recently, we heard of a group called Journalism Center on Global Trafficking. Now this JCOGT, and I think it was supported by the US Consulate of Calcutta also. So very recently they had this group of journalists who were sensitized on the issue of trafficking. Of course, they were a very well-informed group of journalists otherwise also. And now are keen actually to understand the issue and take it forward. Also, when we're speaking about Thomson Reuters, in one of my engagements with them, they've been having these conferences also, that when we speak about media and whenever we engage with the media, it's also important for us to emphasize the need of consistent reporting. Because reporting happens definitely, but only when there are knee-jerk, and as a matter of a knee-jerk reaction. An incident happens, the reporting happens, and then the issue dies its natural death.
This session that we will be doing now is not the current scenario. We will now be looking at an ideal scenario. So we will plan and strategize as a collective for a little bit in the future.
So the ideal scenario we were talking about is like having a state action advisory committee on anti-trafficking, say state advisory committee, which is at the state level, the district level, and at the national level. That would be the ideal situation where the state advisory committee would give inputs, would play a role of like an advisory on policy and different inputs they would be giving. And they would be working only on trafficking issue and nothing else except trafficking issue.
The crime review meetings happening at the district level and state level also helps the department to see where the cases are standing, whether it is standing at the initial FIR stage, or there needs to be something done at the charge sheet, or how things can sections can be added in the charge sheet. Those things can be added here. And in the crime review meetings, it is very important we have the vigilance committee members, NGO partners who are part of the crime review meeting, so that they can input into the case, because they will be part of the rescue operations when they are in field.
So generally क्या हो रहा है ना कि एक जगह पे हम देखते हैं कि नंबर्स ऑफ केसेस होते हैं बट अलग अलग कोर्ट में चलता है, तो हम चाहते हैं कि एक डेडिकेटेड कोर्ट हो जहाँ पे ट्रैफिकिंग के जितने भी केसेस है वो डेडिकेटेड कोर्ट में चले जाए.
In your experience, are the politicians really, if I look at India, I'm not getting into political parties, but is there differences or is there more or less same?
It's half-half.
Half-half?
I would say half-half.
Okay.
Because we've seen, I don't want to mention states where the state CMs have come out on public platform saying human trafficking and bonded labor should be abolished from our state.
Okay.
And they've made it a very clear statement.
We felt that maybe a convergence of the anti-trafficking groups is required to be done with the sex workers groups. We have also discussed whether it is, and so we are talking about an ideal situation, whether we can have sex work, voluntary adult sex work legalized and issue ID cards, and anyone without an ID card or anyone found without a proper ID card will be deemed to be a traffic victim and strict action will be taken. So in our discussion we felt that maybe legalizing, giving the recognition of workmen to sex workers might also act as something which might bring down trafficking. We also talked about labor trafficking, where we felt that different states have different wages. So therefore, from the poor states, the illegal migration is happening, trafficking is happening in the form of labor. So if we can, throughout the country, we can have the one minimum wages, ensure one minimum wages, which will have to be paid to the laborer, then maybe the labor trafficking can also be looked into. Actually, we did not discuss that too much, because obviously when this discussion came up, again another question popped up that who is going to monitor the monitoring authority. So one of the most important issue that came up in our discussion is the issue of corruption.
If we are talking about the fund, monitoring about the funding agencies, at least fund allocation, etc., at least we were on the opinion that a body which is independent, like CAG and all, these should be the body who will do the monitoring, the review. So that was the
So what we want is that the survivor's voice comes in focus. Lived experiences are crucial, and bringing that to the fore again from a legal perspective. If we take the Kolkata High Court case in mind, it's really important. Who can do that is NGOs and CSOs, because most of the time they're the ones directly working with survivors in terms of psychosocial support.
We thought all the existing the proposed laws, they must be reviewed for their possible conflict or lack of efficiency. For instance, we have this tip bill which is pending. Probably we should review and see what are all the problems. Likewise, we need to review the existing and proposed laws, and we see, and we must try for some kind of unified law which will be effective. That is as legal arrangements. That's what we thought.
I just want to add here, to treat it as an organized crime, we discussed that there needs to be a comprehensive law that looks at all kinds of trafficking, and to avoid any kind of confusion or, for lack of a better word, often, misused because of loopholes, the old law needs to be repealed. So there should be one full comprehensive law that addresses and looks only at trafficking.
So if transfers being done, there can be a separate department for a state-wise for AHTUs, like if you're going to transfer from one district to another, but then you'll only be going to transfer in AHTU only. Generally what happened right now, sometimes they are going in a CM office, security, sometimes they are transferring to the police station, sometimes then police line. So if someone is trained by civil societies or by law, they should be kept for that particular means only, wherever they are going to work.
So investigation to be done at source, transit and destination. Law enforcement recognize the violation of survivor.
The investigation has to be streamlined across the source, transit and destination, and then the lawmaking agency, they need to understand and recognize the violation that is happening to the survivors. And then we are also thinking about that the characteristics of organized crime, if evidence can be built on the characteristics of organized crime to establish that this is an organized crime.
Ideal scenario is efficient AHTUs. So what are the indicators? How can we say that AHTUs are actually efficient? So first and foremost, it is very important because they are the prime law enforcement agencies. So their intelligence gathering has to be very strong. Now methods of intelligence gathering could vary, from AHTU to AHTU. But at the same time, we feel, and this is now duplication of points also, survivor police and survivor AHTU collaboration. So making survivor a part of the systemic response can be a very good step, in fact, from other intel gathering agency methods. Because from my own experience, I know after a rescue operation, I've heard a survivor say it inside the court to the judge कि पुलिस ने हमको तो निकाल लिया, 4 छोटी माइनर बच्चियां थी, वो अभी तक वहाँ है. So here is a strong intel given by none other than survivor. So if you have, so it's a dual thing. One is your intel gets strong, another a collaborative approach of the system plus the survivor.
तो मेरे को जो फीलिंग्स आ रहा है कि मैं ये पूरे डिस्कशन में जो मेरे को समझ आया कि हम लोग पूरे बॉडी पार्ट को लेकर ज़्यादा बात किए हैं, सर को और पूंछ को लेकर बात नहीं किए हैं. अगर ये एक मगरमच्छ है तो, क्योंकि ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम की बात कर रहे हैं, ये मेरे को फील हुआ है. क्योंकि फाइंडिंग से लेकर मतलब जो ट्रैफिक हो रहे हैं उनको ढूंढने से लेकर उनको हम लोग कैसे उनका केस को सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, यहाँ तक हम लोग बातचीत कर रहे थे. लेकिन हम लोग कैसे उसको रोक सकते हैं. पीपल्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, क्योंकि ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम से फाइट करने के लिए मूवमेंट का जरूरत होगा. तो इस हिसाब से मेरे को जो लगा, मेरा सजेशन कुछ इस तरीके का है कि अगर हम लोग पीपल्स इंस्टीट्यूशन जो है, जो सबसे नज़दीक है पीपल्स के पास, जो है ग्राम पंचायत, उसमें कैसे इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं.
The number of families lodging FIRs of their missing children, missing daughters has significantly gone up. This could be one indicator. 15 years back, from rural communities, the number of cases that were being filed that my daughter is missing, we are seeing a significant increase. So it can also be the other way now. Parents now wanting to know where has she gone. 2 months I had contact with her, now I have no connect with her. I know I had got her in her marriage. So this marriage wala thing also, more families lodging FIRs. The 2 months I had contact, now there is no one. One is that. Second, data on the reduction of stigma that survivors are now facing once they are back in communities. And there are families who are fighting to bring their daughters back, their sons back, stigma reducing. This is a counter narrative that you cannot keep children and young people in shelter homes in the name of hostile families. Communities want their kids back. There are families who want their children back. But then it will be a counter narrative to that, those organizations who are saying that no, we can't send them back. We have to keep them here, otherwise when they go back, they will be re-trafficked. So even a study on how many of these survivors who've returned have been re-trafficked.
Is it a common experience of the group that actually across India, there is no standardized document on what the AHTU's role should be? Because one of the things in the research that they've come across is that there are many AHTUs who don't even think that it is their responsibility to gather intelligence. In their role mandate, it starts from the time when an information has been reported to the AHTU, and only then will the AHTU respond. So there seems to be a gap in expectations that you hold.
This particular study, research from 2018 to 2018 to 2023, through the RTIs, on AHTUs, and our learnings on it. Where are the gaps? What is happening with the AHTU's progress? We will take this to the MHA. We will take it to NALSA and the AHTUs, the top brass of the AHTUs. There is a triangle, which is often a triangle that is often used to see where is a group's propensity, where is a group's leaning. So the triangle is that of performance, learning, and ambience or culture building. So if in this group we see the action orientation of NGOs is very high, the civil society. And so that's why the suggestions also that come are all operations. And then there is a thing about culture or interface management. हमें ऐसा करना चाहिए, how much risk do we take? And one thing that has come out very clearly, the learning and development in this sector, at least from this group, that has been on the back burner. So one of the things that from Sanjog that we would like to wish, and it will come out in the report that we are going to make, it's a compendium. How do we build a collective national compendium of practices? It's not about good and bad. Of practices in the anti-human trafficking sector if we look at the AHTUs. What does the media narrative now need to be? And I mean the civil society, certain journalists, we need to have a collective paper on the top 10 themes in the media that needs to go in the next 3 years for this shift to happen. Everybody has talked about media narrative needs to change. Narrative needs to. What does this concretely mean? So how do we come together and develop a white paper on that? How do we work with the media and what is the shift? From what to what and how? To bring out a list of researches that we need to conduct as collective. So for example, the impact of collaborative actions, say between, when we have collaborative action between investigators, prosecutors, survivors in teams, what has been the impact of that kind of a strategy? We don't have data. Or corruption. Have we seen what are the kinds of corruption practices? I mean, I'm again saying how I don't know the hows of it, but what do we need to? We need to have a list of these researchers to find out, even a study to find out the champions in the system. I am thinking that if the CSOs are now looking at working only with policy makers and law enforcement agencies, and we need the financial system cohort is a very important cohort in this.
I would also want to add, when you started with the idea document, to have a milestone mapping of the entire issue and the journey that anti-human trafficking has had. That will be very helpful for funders to understand.
That's right. I think that's really important to show where the changes have happened, so that you
can see like, okay, as a result at the community level as well as at the systems level, rather than constantly pointing out the problems and issues. That is there, but also like I think it's really important. I don't think people are so aware that trafficking is often connected with commercial sexual exploitation, whereas that is actually a very small part of it. So I think that is important to focus on.